Welcome everyone to our breaking new ground ceremony here today at this amazing property, home of the South Coast LGBTQ Community Center. I'm TRACI, the Events Committee Chairperson for the network. We invited you here today to see our vision and future plans for our community center. You will hear from community members, mentors, and activists. After the speeches, invited guests will be led in groups of 6 through the center, where you will see our vision for LGBTQ plus individuals and families. Everyone, please welcome our president of the South Coast LGBTQ plus network, Andy POLLOCK.
Thanks, everybody. I don't think anyone recognized me with a suit, so that's probably a good thing. I wanted to welcome you guys. Good afternoon. The mission of the South Coast LGBTQ plus network is to create and support a thriving LGBTQ plus community in our South Coast of Massachusetts, where members across the age spectrum can freely, safely, and joyously celebrate their true selves and realize their full potential. Every day, this group of people strives to build and maintain comprehensive support network of caring, committed individuals, organizations, and businesses, whose charter is to ensure that the LGBTQ plus individuals are treated with respect, dignity, and equality. Isn't that a great mission statement? Today we make a monumental step towards our goal. With the assistance of everyone in this place and those who aren't here, we're moving forward to a dynamic, out and proud way. This afternoon you will hear some of the history of the organization. You'll hear of our programs running and programs that we hope to have in place. You'll hear from the younger generation. Thank you, Jackson. And hear about what the network is doing as you take a tour of the space. Each floor will have a separate tour guide that will talk to you about what's going on in each of the rooms. It's going to be exciting. So welcome. We are grateful for each part that you have played, each individual. Be proud of what is going on here in the South Coast. There's nothing like this. Be proud of your part in it. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. So please welcome our Vice President and Development and Fundraising Committee Chairperson, Rebecca McCullough.
Thank you so much. Today we are breaking new ground for the LGBT community in the South Coast. It's amazing to be standing here today when I think back to January of 2014, to that first meeting we had. My boss at the Women's Center, where I worked at the time, Pamela McLeod Lima, asked me to go to a meeting with her. She goes, I don't know if it's a task force, but they're trying to do something for the LGBT community. And she goes, they think they need a community organizer. But what they really need is a development person, because if they don't have any money, they won't be able to do anything. She was right. At that meeting, there was about 12 people, youth from NB Agley, adults from Coastline, South Coast Equality, YWCA, the Women's Center, and Liz DiCarlo and Bev Bocelli were there, along with Craig Dutra from the Community Foundation. We had a great discussion, throwing out ideas and envisioning what a future LGBTQ plus organization would look like. I don't think anyone could have envisioned that 7 years later, we'd be here today showcasing a new building that will become the South Coast LGBTQ plus Community Center. The South Coast Network, as I said, was established as a collaboration of 7 LGBT agencies and allied organizations with the help of the Community Foundation. It was actually organized as a project and a fund of the Community Foundation, who served as our fiscal sponsor for the first 3 years. Over the next 3 years, the network expanded to include 11 organization members. Somehow, I ended up as president of the steering committee, a straight woman of a seasoned age. But it's really been a great journey, and I'm so glad that I've had the honor of really taking an idea and really making it happen, you know, and it was a lot of hard work, not just me, certainly, but we had a very dedicated 15-member steering committee at first, and then when we became a nonprofit in 2018, we had a board of directors. Our secretary and events chair, TRACI Welch, likes to tell the story of when she went to the New England Pride convention, and she found there that most of the people that were running anything in Pride were gay males. And she got up and announced that in New Bedford, our chairwoman was a woman, and she's straight. I guess I was quite famous.
Still are.
I just, you know, and at first I should not be the one, you know, but it worked out great. And I think what really made it work was the fact that we had allies working with the community of LGBT and different organizations. And that really made a big difference. But I do have a LGBTQ connection. While my life is centered around a wonderful husband, 2 kids, and 4 grandchildren, I have a trans brother named Amory who lives in Connecticut. He didn't transition until his mid-40s. I was just talking to him last week, and for the first time learned that he finally decided to make the change because he was having concerned with suicidal. He was really becoming suicidal. He had lived his life, he was not himself. As he got older, he realized he was a guy trapped in, I missed half of it. He was a guy trapped in a woman's body. And what a change in him when he finally took the steps to let the man inside him out, and he was able to live and be his true self. But the real story today is the building. About 3 years ago, I got a tip that the city may be selling this building. So I did a little investigating, and I actually was able to have a tour of the building by one of the people at the inspectional services, because I didn't want to get my hopes up if it was awful or if it wouldn't be what we wanted. And then in June of 2019, we asked Whale, because we knew we needed a partner, and we asked Whale to come and have a tour. And Gail Forts invited Terry Bernert and Rachel Allison, and they came and they had the same reaction. This is a great building, we have to do this project. So, and Terry said she would check and see, you know, if she could find out when the RFP might come out. So around Thanksgiving, I sent her a little email and I said, you know, did you ever find out anything about the building? And she goes, no, but let me check. So she calls me back later and she said, well, I have good news and bad news. The good news is the RFP is already out. The bad news is it's due tomorrow. And even though I have done grants, we knew we couldn't do it in one day. And luckily, the city decided to expand the deadline until January. So we were able to get our application in, and lo and behold, we won. And we actually were the only people that won in the building. But it was great because I didn't think we'd even get it. And I put in at the very lowest price, you know, $15,000 was the least they would take for the building. I said, well, we should be able to deal with that. So, and then in June of 2020, June 30th, we actually signed the P&S and had a little ceremony here. And I'm happy to announce that I applied in November for the Community Preservation Act funding for historic preservation. And I asked for $200,000 because that's what we needed to do the new roof, all new windows, repair and
Masonry.
the masonry, sorry. So it's been a very exciting time. Everything seems to just fall into place for us, so we hope that continues. And social change does take time, but providing local resources, programs and services to LGBT LGBTQ individuals in need of support through a central hub makes programs easy to find and more accessible to the LGBT individuals. However, it also gives a compass point not only to find resources and services, but also to engage the network in community events and forums. So the South Coast LGBTQ network has started something. I think it's something big, and we need all of you gathered here tonight to help us finish the job. So I hope you'll join us, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Rebecca. Next to say a few words is Diamond Votech student Jackson. Please.
Good afternoon. My name is Jackson. I am from a Vogue school, and I'm 17. Growing up in the South Coast, there really wasn't any support for trans or binary, anything. So hearing that this building has been bought and is going to be used for that, it gives me an optimistic view on the future. Seeing how when I grew up there wasn't much support, I feel that this building will give support to the kids that desperately need it and those who are in a bad place. We can have groups that will be here, support groups that will help. And it's not just going to be for the youth, it can also be for the older generations that never had a support group and had to experience it throughout their whole lives, being alone, thinking they were alone. But with this building here now, it'll send a message to everyone that they're not alone, especially the older generations, that I would like to thank as well for paving the way for this to be here and for it to be available for the youth, for kids like me, and for kids to come. And I'd like to thank the LGBTQ network for allowing me to be here and speak. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jackson. We appreciate it. Please welcome to the podium mentor and activist Liz DiCarlo.
So, my role today is to talk about a couple of guys that made a big difference in our community. Oops, wait a minute. There's the
I did this on
final
Price is
piece.
Right.
Oh, thanks. Okay, so John and George Lipsky. You may know their name because there are a couple of funds at the Community Foundation, one for community activities. We had $200,000. And another one is for scholarships for both people who want to go on to college as well as other skilled credential programs. And that too is administered through the Community Foundation of Southeastern Mass. John and George left my wife Beverly and I with the enormous honor and responsibility, quite frankly, to distribute their estate. And all they said to us was, "You'll know what to do." Okay, well, neither of us had ever been executors or knew what we were in for, quite frankly. But John and George were guys who had lived really full lives. They grew up in Rhode Island. John was from Woonsocket, and Woonsocket, as he would say, and George grew up here in New Bedford. Both went into the military, John into the Navy, George into the Air Force when they were late teens. They were both very engaged in the Pacific and European areas, and both came back to New York when they were discharged. They ended up there at the YMCA, met one another, fell in love, knew they couldn't go back to Woonsocket or New Bedford as out gay men, so they went to Los Angeles and had a career in both the evolving television as well as all kinds of movies. George was a phenomenal costume designer to the stars, and John distributed all the movies and television programs early on. So they came back when they retired. They had a beautiful condo in Dartmouth, lived a good life, and when we met them at Jim Perry's party, they were just exceptional guys. They were so welcoming and so warm, and when they gave us the huge honor to distribute this money, much of which went to the network programs as well as the coordinator's role, they would be very proud to know the work that has been done here. They didn't tell us what to do with their estate, but we found a letter that George had written saying, because of the incredible hate and disdain that they experienced as gay men growing up, they wanted us to know that they wanted money to go to help gay youth. And they also had been volunteering. So many of their friends in Southern California had HIV and AIDS. They wanted something done about the AIDS epidemic. So the orientation of the money, and it was close to $1 million that we had to distribute, went to programs all around, not just this country, but the world, where they worked, where they lived, where they grew up. And the money that is in New Bedford, though we have a little bit left in the Lipsky-Whitaker General Fund, we know that it can be well used by not just the network, but other organizations who are committed to really ending homophobia, ending violence against LGBTQ folks, and really making a welcoming space for everybody in our community. And in John and George's memory and spirit, I'd just like to thank Rebecca and Andy for carrying on the work. TRACI, you've done an incredible job with developing all kinds of events. And quite honestly, it's so nice to hear young people speaking out, thank you, as well as old friends that I've seen involved in many different struggles over the years. So thank you all very much. John and George would be very pleased with what's going on.
So everyone, please welcome Andy POLLOCK to say a few closing remarks.
All right. Well, I want to thank the speakers. I'm reminded that we're standing on the shoulders of giants, people like John and George, Liz and Bev, that went before us, people who had vision, people who were generous, and people of action. They are the people that came before us, and today we take another giant step forward. Today we enter a new phase. But I'd like to mention just 3 things real quickly that we're focused on at the network. One is that we're really committed to our trans community. We've started 2 trans support groups this past year, one virtually and one in person. We commemorated the Trans Day of Remembrance. There's a great video on our website. And we just published the Trans Day of Visibility. Youth. We're laying the groundwork for amazing youth work in 2022. Stay tuned. Eileen, who's our network coordinator, who I just saw her arrive. There she is back there. Ask her about what she's doing. She's amazing. The program is going to knock your socks off when it comes together. And the older LGBT members of the community is the third. We completed a needs assessment a few years ago, and we found that 90% of our senior population fears going into elder housing facilities. And we have some anecdotal stories that back us up. We plan to work with the YW to train and assist facilities so that our elders are protected and can live out their days in the fullness of who they are, in peace. So this and much more will be happening right here in these walls. We would like to show you the building. We'd like to talk to you about what's going on. We'll be hosting groups 5 at a time. We've given out little cards, so that's your group that you'll be going with. Okay? Please note the color on your card.
We're all the same color. We're all red. I'll put 5 at a time.
Brian's a good.
I'm sorry.
No worries. So,
Painting and getting things ready. We're tired.
we're tired. But I leave you with this. Yesterday for me was not a remarkable day. It was a day that I won't remember. And tomorrow I'm not expecting a big epiphany. Sorry, to use the Episcopal word. But today will live for 100 years. When people look back on this day, they will remember what we did here today. I want us to think about that. We will mark this day as another step towards enabling our brothers and sisters to live freely, safely, and joyously. This building will be a visible and tangible symbol to the community of our pride and our commitment to the most vulnerable among us. And simply, it will be our home. Thank you.
Hey,